So this is part 3 of this rational equations and expressions series. And so part 3, we're actually going to look at solving equations with rational expressions and graphs. We can look at proportions, or we can look at the LCM, lowest common multiple method. And then you will have some built-in videos in regard to applications and expressions. So let's go ahead and begin here. And so when we look at solving this, one of the methods I said was a proportion method. In solving proportions, you can use your cross when you're cross multiplying, okay? So x minus 4 multiplied by 2x minus 1 is going to be equal to the other cross method, which would be 2x plus 3 and x plus 6. So we're just going to multiply these out. That's going to be 2x squared, negative x, negative 8x, positive 4. This is going to be 2x squared and 12x and 3x and 18. Now I'm just going to pause for a moment, because when you look at the excluded values for your domain, you're looking here and here, remember? So x cannot be, so we're looking here, x cannot be negative 6. And here I'm just going to add the 1 and divide by 2. So x cannot be 1/2. So there's your domain, your excluded values of your domain. So I'm going to come back here and begin looking at like terms. So that'll be 2x squared minus 9x plus 4, and then 2x squared plus 15x plus 18. So I'm just combining like terms. And then I want to get my variables on one side, but if I subtract my 2x squared to both sides, notice what happens. They disappear. So you're left with negative 9x plus 4 is equal to 15x plus 18. So I'm just going to move all of my variables to the right, constants to the left. So I'm going to add 9x, and I'm going to subtract 18. So that goes to 0, that goes to 0. I'm left with negative 14 is equal to 24x. And so I'm just going to divide both sides by 24. I'm going to get x equals negative 14/24, or both are divisible by 2 to give me negative 7/12 as an answer, along with my excluded values. This next one, we can look, let's try to simplify what we can, okay, and factor what we can. So in this denominator here, I'm going to factor out the 3, so that'll give me 3 times x minus 2 plus negative or minus 1/3 is equal to 2, and then I cannot simplify that denominator. So when I'm looking at my excluded values here for my domain, it's very possible, I didn't mention this in the problem earlier, but it's possible that we have an extraneous solution with this. It's possible that our answer may be part of our excluded value, and if that's so, then we have to eliminate that answer. So it's possible that we have a no solution, or it's possible that we have 2 answers, but one of those answers is part of our excluded value, so we cannot include it. So in this case, x cannot be 2. Just looking right here, x cannot be 2. And now you're looking here, 2x plus 1. So that would be subtract the 1 and divide by 2. So negative 1/2. Now, you get to this point where you're trying to solve, and your goal is to eliminate things from the denominator. So you're looking for an LCM. Your LCM is actually going to involve the factor 3, it's going to involve x minus 2, and it's going to involve 2x plus 1. You see how we're including everything that we see from our denominators? So I'm going to just put a large parenthesis, and I'm going to multiply by what we're saying is our LCM. So you're going to distribute all of this to here, all of it here, and all of it here. So I'm going to write this out in a very long way so we see what's happening. So this first fraction is 7 multiplied by 3 times x minus 2, but the LCM is 3 times x minus 2 times 2x plus 1 minus 1/3 multiplied by the LCM equals 2 divided by 2x plus 1 multiplied by the LCM. Now we're going to see what some things happen here. Okay, you can put all these over 1 if that helps you. What we're seeing is that everything that you see here, here, and here, that's your LCM. That's what we determined up here. So when we multiply our LCM by every term, we're going to eliminate the denominators so we can begin to solve this expression, solve this equation. So let's look for things that are going to divide out. Well, this 3 will divide out here. This x minus 2 will divide out here. And then we've got 7 multiplied by the 2x plus 1, which would be 14x plus 7. Next one, we're looking at this 3 will divide here. And we're going to have a subtract, and I'm going to put this in brackets because what you've got is this x minus 2 multiplied by 2x plus 1. And when you multiply all that out, you're going to get 2x squared plus x minus 4x, so minus 3x minus 2 equals, this 2x plus 1 will divide out with this, so you're going to be left with 6, 2 times the 3, multiplied by the x minus 2. So remember, you got to be careful right here. When you're subtracting that, you're basically taking the opposite sign of everything in the bracket. So you're going to have 14x plus 7 minus 2x squared plus 3x, so it's like you're distributing a negative to everything, and then that would be plus 2 equals 6 times x, 6 times 2, so that'll be 6x minus 12. So I'm going to look for like terms, and kind of running out of room there, so I'm just going to go to a new screen. So I'm going to have 14x plus 7 minus 2x squared plus 3x plus 2 is equal to 6x minus 12. Okay, so from here, I want to find out any of my like terms that I have. So that's 14x and 3x, so that'll be 17x. And then I've got the 7 and the 2, so that'll be 9. And then I've got the negative 2x squared, and then I've got 6x minus 12. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get everything to one side, and I'm just going to move everything to the right. So I'm going to add, so I'll make it 2x squared. I'm going to subtract 17x from the 6x, so that'll be negative 11x, and then subtract the 9, so that'll be negative 21. So I'm going to have 2x squared minus 11x minus 21 is equal to 0. So what I'm trying to figure is, okay, a times c, which would be negative 42, and it has to add to give me negative 11. So that would be negative 14 and 3. So again, I'm going to rewrite the first term, 2x squared minus 14x plus 3x. Rewrite the last term of 21, negative 21. Go through my grouping. So 2x, so x minus 7. Factor out a 3, and that'll be x minus 7. So 2x plus 3 is one factor. X minus 7 is another factor. So I actually have two answers here. I'm going to have x equal negative 3 halves, and I'm going to have x equals 7. So I need to double check. Do any of those cross check with my excluded values? And that would be no. So I would keep my excluded values and then note that I have two solutions, negative 3 halves and 7. So that would be negative 3 halves 0 and 7 0. Those would be my solutions, along with my excluded values of x cannot be 2 and x cannot be negative 1 half. So let's look at another one. This is a little smaller. You're looking at your LCM. I'm seeing x, and I see x plus 9. So the LCM would be x multiplied by x plus 9. That's going to be multiplied by everything. It'll be multiplied by this term, and this term. So again, I'm going to write it out longhand. So x times x plus 9, show you all the steps to it. So we can see what would divide out. And before I move on, I'm looking here and I see x and I see x plus 9. So that means my excluded values, x cannot be 0 and x cannot be negative 9. So now let's come back here. I'm multiplying. So now I'm looking at what will divide out. The x's will divide out. So that'll leave me with 2 times x plus 9. Plus the x plus 9s will divide out, leaving me with 4x is equal to x times x plus 9. So here I've got 2x times 9, so I've got 2x plus 18 plus 4x is equal to x squared plus 9x. So really you just want to try to get everything on the same side as you can. So 2x and 4x would be 6x. So I've got 18 plus 6x is equal to x squared plus 9x. So I just want to subtract the 6x and subtract the 18. So that's going to leave me with 0 is equal to x squared plus 3x minus 18. And I'm looking for factors of negative 18 that add to give me 3. So that's got to be 6 and negative 3. So that would be x plus 6, x minus 3. So that would be x is going to equal negative 6 and x is going to equal to 3. I double check those with my excluded values and they're good. No overlap there. So I can keep my excluded values, but I also have two solutions to this rational equation. This next one, we've got two more we're going to look at. So we're looking here. I want to go ahead and factor this one. So that's going to give me x divided by x minus 3 plus 4 divided by x plus 3 is equal to 18 divided by, that's a difference of squares, right? That x squared minus 9, so that'll be x plus 3 and x minus 3. My LCM is going to be x plus 3 and x minus 3. It's what every denominator needs, right? All the denominators need an x plus 3, x minus 3. So we're going to multiply everything by the LCM, x plus 3, x minus 3. Notice I did not leave it as x squared minus 9. Let's go ahead and leave it as a factored form. So you're going to multiply it by every term. So we're going to have x divided by x minus 3 multiplied by the LCM, which is x plus 3, x minus 3, plus 4 divided by x plus 3 multiplied by the LCM of x plus 3, x minus 3 is equal to 18 divided by x plus 3, x minus 3. When you multiply that by your LCM, you'll see what happens in just a moment. So remember, I stated this in the earlier problem. Those are your that's your LCM, right? And that LCM is multiplied by each of the parts of the rational expression. Why? Why are we doing that? Is so that we can eliminate denominators. So this x minus 3 will divide out with this x minus 3, and you're left with x multiplied by x plus 3 plus, all right, well, this x plus 3 and that x plus 3 will divide out. You're left with 4 multiplied by 4x, 4 multiplied by x minus 3. And then this denominator will divide out, and you're left with 18. So we're going to have x times x and x plus 3. So x squared plus 3x plus 4x minus 12 is equal to 18. So I do recognize that I have only one x squared term. That's an indicator that I'm going to have two answers here. So I'm going to simplify there. So that's going to give me x squared plus 7x minus 12. I'm going to subtract the 18 over from here, move it over here. So that's going to give me x squared plus 7x minus 30 is equal to 0. Now I need to back up because I didn't complete my excluded values for my domain. And remember where you're looking in your denominators. X cannot be negative 3 and 3. Now I'm going to erase some of this here so I can show, remember what you're looking, well, A is 1, right? So you're looking for factors of negative 30 that add to 7. Factors of negative 30 that add to 7. So that's going to be 10 and 3 with a negative 3. So since A is 1, I can go directly to x plus 10, x minus 3. And then when I solve that, I'm going to have x equal negative 10 as one solution and x equal 3 is another solution. There you go, right there. That's x equal 3, and my excluded value says 3. So I cannot include x equal 3 as an answer. So this one is extraneous. The only answer, the only solution to this would be x equal negative 10. So that's going to conclude the just different practice problems of going through our solving rational equations. Remember the steps that you're going through here is you want to look at the denominators, determine if you can factor them. And then if you can factor them, you're trying to figure out your LCM. That LCM is going to be multiplied by every term in that rational equation. Why do we do that? And that's so we can eliminate the denominators. And when we eliminate the denominators, we're going to get to a point in our problem solving that looks something like this. After we've multiplied the LCM by everything, now we're down to just terms without denominators. Then we can go through and solve that. We may even have to factor to end up getting our solutions. So I always want to state our excluded values. So then when we cross-reference with our answers, we may see that sometimes we have an extraneous solution, so we have to eliminate that as solution from our answer.